It's been a minute. Welcome to VGL Chaos here. Today we're going to talk about Fallout 5. That's right, Fallout 5. It's actually in early production. That's been confirmed by Todd Howard himself. But there's more to it when we get into what's going on with Fallout 5, because there's other games that are directly impacting how it's actually going to go. Fallout 5's production is pretty dependent on the success of Starfield, and honestly, Elder Scrolls 6 too, because people don't really trust Bethesda anymore. And if they don't prove very soon they can still put out a quality game, I don't know. Maybe Microsoft shuts down Fallout 5 before it actually hits full production. We're going to go over everything. Make sure you guys are subscribed and make sure you have those notifications turned on. Thank you for 50,000 subscribers on the channel as we barrel towards 100,000. Now, Bethesda. What comes to mind when you think of the word Bethesda? It rolls off the tongue. It's one of the biggest studios in the world, especially after the acquisition by Microsoft. Not only is the studio home to some of the biggest franchises in the world, like Elder Scrolls, Fallout, Doom, but they have virtually unlimited funding by one of the world's biggest tech giants, which that's exciting for fans of their legacy. They have a long history of making some really good RPGs and publishing some epic first-person shooters, so naturally, the concept of a new single-player Fallout game should be exciting. Now, Bethesda didn't create the Fallout franchise. They bought the rights to the IP in the mid-2000s, and they quickly translated it to their first-person Elder Scrolls format. Fallout 3 was a landmark game for the HD era of a game, essentially being Oblivion, but in the post-apocalypse, and it was cool. Awesome guns to mess around with, all kinds of cool things. We went there, so what was next for the series? It's no secret that Bethesda has been in some hot water over the past decade. Their upcoming sci-fi RPG Starfield still has a lot to prove. Fallout 5 is a long way off, but we do know a decent amount about it, both through official statements from Bethesda themselves and industry insiders relaying what they've heard. So today, we're going to look at everything we know about the upcoming post-apocalyptic RPG shooter that we hope is going to come if it finally does launch. Now, before we talk about Fallout 5, we need to talk about the last couple games in the series. While Bethesda started out strong with the Fallout IP, they fell off the side of the earth, and they haven't pulled themselves back up yet. Like I said, Fallout 3, massive success. Standalone sequel, Fallout New Vegas, arguably even better, arguably the best Fallout game we've ever gotten. But then, things started to unravel with Fallout 4. Now, 4 looked and sounded better than ever. The gameplay was heavily simplified to the point that many people didn't consider it to be an RPG. Now, granted, it did allow modders to basically make the perfect Fallout game from its assets in the open world, but the vanilla version of it, it was underwhelming. Then we had the absolute disaster that is Fallout 76. Online RPG survival spin-off, supposed to be the next big thing, but it was a complete and utter disaster, putting Bethesda's rep kind of in the toilet. Now, I can't get into everything that Fallout 76 did wrong in this video, but I recommend watching the videos that the internet historian made on the topic. He covers it in extreme detail. The short version is this: buggy, broken, virtually pointless because of the lack of structure. On top of that, they were kind of caught lying many times about business practices, DLC pricing, real-world collector's items. It just made everything stink. Fallout 76 has received 1.5 million updates that have gotten it in a pretty good place now if you boot it up, but if you remember back in the beginning, well, yeah. Now let's talk about Starfield. It's the first new Bethesda IP in decades, and while Todd Howard keeps describing it as Skyrim in space, a lot of the gaming community is skeptical. I mean, it's been a long time since Bethesda made a really great game instead of just publishing the work of other studios. Now, obviously, there's nothing wrong with that, but the point is, Bethesda's actual in-house development has seriously suffered since the Xbox 360 days. Fallout 4, launch disappointment. Fallout 76, absolute disaster. And every new Skyrim port and broken promise just adds more fuel to that fire. As a publisher, Bethesda's been killing it. As a developer, they need to start winning back that trust. Starfield's constant delays are likely a result of Bethesda and Microsoft's higher-ups being very aware of how high the stakes are for their redemption arc. I mean, if Starfield comes out and it's not good, or if it's even just average, there's going to be a few million people that never get hyped for another Bethesda project, period, regardless of what franchise it's part of. I know that sounds dramatic, but think about it. The last truly great Bethesda-developed game was Skyrim. It launched all the way back in 2011, over a decade ago. Since then, they've kind of been upsetting people with broken sequels and excessive ports and IRL controversies like the Fallout 76 merchandise flubs and the recent Doom Eternal soundtrack fiasco. Bethesda's rep? It's genuinely on the line here with Starfield. They need to prove that they still have what it takes to please the gaming community. And frankly, I wouldn't be shocked at all if Fallout 5 gets canceled if Starfield flops. And before you say something like, wait, Jimmy, Fallout 5 doesn't exist. Yes, it does. Let me correct you. It absolutely does exist. Back in late 2021, Todd Howard himself confirmed that Fallout 5 is in early production, but they were likely not going to move full steam ahead until after the launch of Elder Scrolls 6, which allegedly still hasn't entered full production because of the trouble of Starfield. You see how the dominoes are stacking here? So yes, Fallout 5 is real, but if Starfield doesn't win people's hearts, I wouldn't be the least bit shocked to see Microsoft pull the plug. Seriously. Now, there hasn't been a lot about Fallout 5 just yet, but Bethesda has been adamant that it's not going to come out before Elder Scrolls 6, and given what we know about that, that's probably not going to launch till like 2027. It's been stated many times that Elder Scrolls 6 isn't going to enter full production until Starfield launches, but since that game keeps getting pushed back, ES6 is effectively getting delayed every single time. I think the state of ES6 just confirms what I said about Bethesda needing to win players back. There's no reason for them to have released a trailer. That was not a smart decision. They released that in 2018. 2018, people. I mean, you guys see where I'm going here. So, if you ask me, this is likely Bethesda and Microsoft waiting to see if Starfield revives interest in Bethesda's first-party RPGs before they show anything else definitive. I mean, if ES6 got a trailer before it entered full production, seems a little strange for Fallout 5 to be so secretive yet so public, if you catch my drift. I'm pretty convinced that Starfield's performance is going to be the deciding factor whether or not you actually ever see Fallout 5. Seriously, ESX is already too far into the race, so it's probably coming. But if Starfield flops or misses expectations, I think there's a good shot Microsoft pulls the plug and the franchise gets put down, honestly, or maybe put away for a long time on the shelf and then rebooted. Another major factor is the decision to make all future Bethesda games Xbox console exclusives, at least at launch. It remains to be seen how much this is going to impact the sales of games like Starfield and ES6, but I have my theories about it and how it's going to play out. Elder Scrolls is too big of a franchise to keep off the PlayStation, and Microsoft can't convince tens of millions of people to go buy an Xbox to play it. There's a lot of people who will buy an Xbox in order to get access to Bethesda and Activision games, but a lot of people won't. They'll just stick with PlayStation or go build a gaming PC. So, we'll have to see what happens. Now, let's talk about Fallout 5. We know it's in early production. We know that it's at least being storyboarded. Aside from managing studios like ID Software and Arcane Studios, they're also putting thousands of hours into making sure Starfield is good as possible. And, I mean, everything hangs on Starfield. So, Fallout 5, I would say, is years away from entering full production. And so much can happen before that. It's actually kind of exciting to see what happens. Microsoft's had a really rough couple years, but if they bring their A game, and that means all their studios, Bethesda included, and they start to crank up their output, we could see a comeback tour. I don't want it to be all me negative here. I'm a big fan of Bethesda's legacy. I can't deny that, but I've been burned, just like you guys. I want them to return to the golden age, but unless Starfield blows me away, I might be one of those people who stops paying attention to their in-house development. I don't want Bethesda to fail, and I certainly don't want ES6 or Fallout 5 to flop, but the studio has a lot to prove. So you guys let me know what you think. I'll see you soon.